Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Robin, aka at Detroit Beastie, here with Dynasty Nerds to talk a little DFS to Dynasty. I know you're probably freaked out right now seeing me with the Nerds, frame and the Nerds logo here. But we got together over the summertime, right? And we're talking and we're chatting. We had several conversations. Shout out to Jared and Rich. And after like the third or fourth meeting, they were like, "Wow, we don't think there's nothing here. There's nothing that we can do together. I mean, we'll just be fans and we'll admire each other from afar, but there's nothing there." And then while we were talking to each other, text or on a broadcast, I said, well, how about, because when you look at the DFS content throughout the week, throughout the season, right? Let's say week one is upon us. Week one is just a few days away. When people write DFS articles, right, for week one, then when week two rolls around, you look back at those said DFS articles, and, a few guys, popped off at cheap price tags, won you a couple bucks, but then those same players become then such hot commodities on the waiver wire in seasonal formats or in dynasty formats. So we ran with that idea, and I said, it wasn't even my idea to say DFS to dynasty, but the idea of using guys that come out of nowhere for cheap price tags, and there's a direct correlation on the waiver wire for you dynasty freaks, for you dynasty nerds. So we got together and said, let's make a video about it. Nothing crazy, maybe 5-8 minutes. You go over a few players that you like this week alone for DFS purposes with their cheap price tags, but someone that you think might go crazy, and then, oh my God, this guy wasn't drafted in my seasonal league. This guy is still on waivers in my dynasty league. So DFS to dynasty, and here we are, and the partnership was made. Let's get right into it. And I do want to say a few things. If you're watching this, go to the Dynasty Nerds channel on YouTube. Subscribe to that sucker. They got promo codes, all things you can use. Beastie is pretty much standard across the board whenever you're signing up for anything. Well, just two places actually. So go there and even join their Discord. There, it's free. There's a lot of premium options in there. And let's get right into the players here, because as the weeks go on, the videos are going to get better and better, right? Week one, you would say, well, you had like a month to prepare, but it comes fast, right? I don't have children. I know for those of you who have kids, it goes by in the blink of an eye. I have DFS basically, and that comes and goes in a flash here. So let's go over a few players, maybe one at each position or two here and there. Week to week, it'll just be a feel thing, as I see fit. And in week one, when you look at this one, Atlanta is playing New Orleans this week, and New Orleans is 14th against the quarterback. And Desmond Ridder, right? You're like, Desmond Ridder, isn't Marcus Mariota their starting quarterback? But Ridder, $6,100 on FanDuel, only $4,200 on DraftKings, and a measly $20 on Yahoo. Now, you might say, well, Desmond Ridder isn't their starting quarterback, right? It's Marcus Mariota is going to be, their starting quarterback. And to even go further, well, Desmond Ridder was picked up off waivers or even drafted in dynasty leagues. But hey, I'm here to say, who knows how long of a leash Marcus Mariota has here? Atlanta looks to be one of the worst teams in the league. 2 wins maybe throughout the season. At what point do they go, you know what, Mariota's just, we brought him in, they paid him some money. He's not really a placeholder, but he's going to be our quarterback, but we're going to fine tune what Ridder can do, what we can see from Ridder. So again, in DFS formats, in big multi-entry GPPs, he's worth a shot. Who knows what happens? What if Ridder comes in the second half and throws 2 touchdowns, rushes for 1? We do not know. And look, he was on the waiver wire, so just double check. Again, dynasty formats, this guy is long gone. Redraft formats, we don't know. We talk about DFS and dynasty here. That's it. But just double check. There's no harm in double checking on some of these guys. When we look at the running back position, Jonathan Taylor, obviously he's the stud. He is the most expensive running back here. But there's a few guys on this list here, and it starts with the Philadelphia Eagles. They head to Detroit to take on my Lions on Sunday, and the Lions are 28th overall against opposing running backs. And as it stands right now, Miles Sanders is kind of iffy. Everything I've seen, he's got some hamstring injury, some lower body stuff, and I don't know if he's going to play. So in walks Kenneth Gainwell. In walks Boston Scott. Now, Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott, I don't want to say they're household names, but if you are a dynasty freak, they absolutely are household names. Kenny Gainwell was a rookie coming into last season. We saw Philadelphia not know how to use him, but Kenny Gainwell's 5.3 on FanDuel, 4.6 on DK. Boston Scott 4.9 on FanDuel, and on DK he's $4,500. So both of these guys, Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott, pay attention attention to them, all in regards to Miles Sanders. Even, let me say two things, two little scenarios here, predictive game scripts. Let's say Miles Sanders is completely inactive, right? You're at Ford Field, you're watching the Lions, you're like, okay, no Miles Sanders. Well, Kenny Gainwell is going to get a ton of work and more than he can handle probably, and some of that is going to trickle down to Boston Scott here. Now, when you look at Gainwell from a dynasty perspective, more than likely he's going to be owned and rostered. Maybe next time around I'll have some ownership percentage stuff for you, but I would imagine, let me just guess here, and you can double check my work and let me know in the comments here. I'm going to suggest that Kenneth Gainwell is owned in like 87, 89% of dynasty leagues, where Boston Scott is probably in the teens, 17, 18%. Has everything to do with how big your league is. If it's a 12-team dynasty league, Boston Scott probably on waivers. Kenny Gainwell might be there as well. 14-team, Kenny Gainwell is definitely rostered. Boston Scott maybe still, and anything after 14, probably both of these players are eaten up here. But pay attention to Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott on on Sunday in relation to the Miles Sanders news. When we look at some wide receivers, I go buck wild with receivers. When you look at this stuff, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman, guys are all rostered in dynasty stuff. Elijah Moore is absolutely rostered here. But what are we going to do about Robert Woods? When you look at Woods, he's got a new home in Tennessee. They're in New York to play the Giants. The Giants are 14th overall against opposing wide receivers. Woods, 5'6" on FanDuel, 5'6" on DK. First time this season where one player is the same price in both formats. We know he tore up his knee, and it's just like the Rams just said, well, you know what? We won the Super Bowl with OBJ. You were out. We added Allen Robinson. Woof, you're no longer needed. And I kind of felt bad for Robert Woods for a minute, but now in Tennessee, he has a chance to do as he pleases, be the number one target hog. A.J. Brown is gone, and we know, though, let me tell you, I know what you're saying out loud right now. Derrick Henry gets a ton of work, but hey, what will Robert Woods command this season if he is fully healthy and ready to rock? I'm going to say 6 or 7 targets a game, and when you look at Woods, absolutely this guy is eaten up, rostered in certain leagues, but right now, before week 1, nobody's talking about him, right? So this might be a chance now to maybe send some feeler offers to the Robert Woods owner. You get Robert Woods on your team before week 1, you play him in DFS, and all is well. DFS, he does well in week 1. That would mean week 1 in your dynasty formats, he does well. If he is, out and about, right? He is already rostered on one of your best friends' team. Send a feeler out. Use this video. Say, you know what Chris Robbins said. Give him that ho hum. That sad sack move. Go, well, you know what? Yeah, I like Robert Woods. I want to add him on my team. I want some depth. He's not going to cost a ton, right? And then see what the other owner says, because you could probably get Robert Woods fairly cheap. Garrett Wilson moving on, the Jets at Baltimore. This guy is going to be a stud. We obviously know he is rostered across the board. Just pay attention after week 1. We shall see. A lot of these rookies, George Pickens, Alec Robinson, Johan Dotson, they were high, dynasty draft selections. In your rookie drafts, they have a little bit of draft capital in real life, but after 1 week, if Garrett does nothing, Pickens does nothing, Alec Pierce does nothing, Johan Dotson does nothing, make sure you look at that after waivers clear for week 2. Maybe someone will go crazy and go, you know what, Rondale Moore this week against Kansas City did very well, right? 3-4 catches, 70 yards and a touchdown, whereas in your rookie pick, Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, or Johan Dotson did nothing. I'm going to cut one of those rookies for a guy like Rondale Moore or Mecole Hardman against Arizona. So pay attention to guys like that. It's not always about what's readily available on the waiver wire, but it's about playing that game, playing that mindset game here. When we look at tight ends, I always punt tight ends in DFS. I know a lot of folks have nominated entire channels, YouTube channels, entire personas around the idea of a top 10 tight end will always win you your league here. I'm here to tell you, I've always played different my whole life. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying they are wrong here, but Hunter Henry in New England playing in Miami, we know that 5-4 on FanDuel, only 3-8 on DraftKings. Hunter Henry, they absolutely love those tight two tight end sets in the red zone, and Hunter Henry is a target monster in the red zone. Double check your waiver wires there, or send out an offer. He's going to cost you next to nothing. His ADP is just his ADP is not in the toilet, but it's a punt. tight end, right? Mo Alie-Cox, one more guy. I've been high on Mo Alley for about a few years, and now Jack Doyle is gone from the Colts here. So now you bring in Matt Ryan. You got, one of, if not the best running backs in the game in Jonathan Taylor, Alec Pierce, who I just mentioned, or Michael Pittman. There's a lot of pieces going around, so there's not a lot left over for Mo Alie-Cox. But again, at his price tag, 4.8 on FanDuel, 3.8 on DK, and then for a dynasty point of view, Mo Alie-Cox might be on the waiver wire. So double check that stuff, and those are the guys that I think could have a potential, really good reaction to week one. So look at them from a DFS perspective, and look at them from a DFS and a dynasty perspective. That's what I got for you. This is what the video is going to look like on a weekly basis. We're going to get better and better as the season goes along. Happy week one. Be good. Make sure you go to the YouTube channel at Dynasty Nerds, follow them, and subscribe. And I will see you next week for week two. It's going to go by in a flash, I'm telling you. Bye.